Hello everyone, this is Crode giving you a shoutcast in a game between I Am MVP versus Dignitas Select here on Shakura's Plateau. We see Select spawning as the red Terran player on the top right hand side of the map. Meanwhile, I Am MVP spawning as the blue Terran over here on the top left-hand side. So this is going to be a Terran versus Terran Mirror match from BlizzCon 2011. This was all part of the Invitational. I'm trying to go through a lot of the replays where those games weren't posted or perhaps hosted and cast them for you guys. I know some of you guys already know who the final victor is, but then again, it's nice to see some of that action. SCV now making its way down over here, trying to make sure that there's no proxy barracks over here. Apparently doesn't see anything at all, as we now see a front door supply depot coming in from Select. Pretty standard builds, most likely. We're going to see from these players perhaps a variation of the 1-1-1. This is Terran versus Terran, so it is rather difficult to try to establish a command center and an early expansion unless you do get the proper amount of defense. Normally a lot of Marines and some tanks as well to cover that tank fire. Now you can see MVP has decided to build a little bit further away from his command center in order to make sure that there is no hidden shenanigans inside his base. He has pretty much built all the way around. He knows what's happening inside his base. He has a lot of vision as he's now going into that standard refinery. Meanwhile, back over here, we see that Select is actually a little bit ahead in terms of his refinery, and that may give him a slight advantage overall, but he did delay his barracks, so his barracks will be behind. Most likely we should be seeing perhaps a reactor of some sort as well, and we'll see whether or not that's really going to make any real difference. Double Hellion reactors, double Hellion off of a factory with a reactor, good for a lot of early pressure, as we're now going to see an upgrade to an orbital command by MVP, and now adding on a tech lab. So MVP may be trying to go for a Reaper expansion. Perhaps one of the easiest ways in the early game to try to expand in Terran versus Terran, putting a little bit of pressure with that Reaper, getting a little bit more map control, as we are now upgrading to an orbital command for Select as well, and setting up this supply depot. The factory has already been started, but it's not going to be able to do very much else. The factory is a little bit further away, so I'm assuming that there is going to be a second gas by Select, meaning that he's going to be trying to go for Banshees. Banshees on this map does make sense, and SCV going to come up the ramp, pretty much see that there is a Marine there, and we'll see what this Marine does. Select may perhaps be able to intercept a Reaper, and a Reaper will be coming inside this base in just a moment. It has to be very, very careful. Reapers can deal a lot of damage very quickly. This is Wings of Liberty, not Heart of the Swarm. If you guys are watching this like 12 or 3 years in the future, so the Reapers are not going to regenerate hit points. BlizzCon 2011, as the Reaper comes straight in and now going after an SCV. One SCV does get destroyed. The Reaper is now jumping down. Two Marines perhaps can stay right here, and then having another Marine here and here should be enough to fend off the attack, as we are now going into Banshees. Factory should lift off, swap locations with this one starport there, as an SCV able to barely slip by, almost was able to get away, but the Reaper does have a faster movement speed anyways. More Marines still being added here. The Reaper's being very smart, deciding if that Reaper does try to come along this backside, that's going to be very bad news, as there are two Marines there to greet it, and two Marines there to greet over here as well. The Reapers will look like they're going to be coming back in. They cannot jump this cliff. That is a double cliff. But now with two Reapers and an SCV, this is going to become perhaps a little bit of a nightmare, as those Reapers, as that SCV is going to absorb some of the damage, and now the Reaper trying to come in and now getting in some D8 charges, and now perhaps going to get able to take down the SCV. SCV does get destroyed, not able to get the one supply depot on fire, and he was able to, I believe, spot the one starport. No, unable to spot the starport, but I believe he is going to be looking or trying to use those orbital commands very effectively. Three Reapers now continuing to walk up and down, and now, oh, the Marine's able to get off a lot of damage. Reaper's going to jump it along the far side here, and this is going to be a little bit of a problem as those Reapers are dancing back and forth. SCV now repairing, making sure that he does not end up supply blocked. Banshee now on the move. Is the Banshee going to be able to deal any damage is the key question, as there are a couple Marines ready and waiting for this one Banshee to come in. Reaper is going to come in along the backside now, be able to jump in and now get in a lot of damage. Reapers coming in as well. Marines are in position. One Reaper does not get taken down, as now the Banshee going to be pushing into this location here. One SCV down. Second SCV does get taken down as well. Cloaking research still about 20 seconds away, and the Banshee does have a slightly superior range, a range of 6 compared to a range of 5. So if that Banshee pilot does a lot of fancy flying, it will be able to deal damage. So will that Banshee be able to rack up a little bit more kills, as a missile turret now being built? The missile turret is now done, or the missile turret is not yet done. SCV does get taken down. A second SCV does get taken down, and it looks like multiple SCVs will get destroyed. Missile turrets build rather quickly, only 25 seconds, as the Banshee is forced to pull back there. So not really enough economic damage coming in. 26 harvesters compared to 24, but there are double mules possibly for IM MVP, as the Banshee looks to get in a little bit more damage once more. Now trying to rack up that damage onto that tech lab. The Marines making their way over, and now the Banshee going to get off perhaps a little bit of some free kills there, as that fancy flying really working out. If he can limit the tech lab, or perhaps get the tech lab on fire, then the stim pack research will be stopped. Now Banshee down to 50 hit points, no more energy, going to be forced to return home and perhaps be repaired, as a fresh Banshee coming in from Select. It looks like Select doesn't have too many Banshees, only 2 in the air. He is currently getting siege tech and a siege tank. He should be able to defend a little bit, as well as this Banshee now moves over here to the natural expansion. We can see a fresh Banshee coming in from the backside of the base. There is one missile turret, and what will be happening, that missile turret does have a range of 7, so this Banshee has to be very, very careful, and going to park itself off over here, getting in that damage, now pulling away, as this Banshee knows that it cannot do very much either. Oh, missile turret, oh, cloak just in time. Perhaps a Marine would have been able to shoot it down, but this is going to be a little bit of a dangerous proposition, as this Banshee is very low on hit points and low and essentially out of energy, and Select, I believe, will be retreating with these units. Select does have his second orbital command up, no SCVs being transferred, so both players are very even at this stage in the game. No one really taking a definitive advantage. MVP does have a lot of energy on his orbital commands, so he could be able to call in more mules. Same thing for Select, both sides having energy for those scanner sweeps, as Select now retreats and regroups with 2 of the Banshees, now going to push in with perhaps a fresh Banshee instead. Now at this stage, MVP, it looks like he's going to be trying to transition into a very heavy macro Marine medevac play, and perhaps even try to execute a drop. There are 6 Marines in that medevac, as you can see, as the Banshee once again coming back in and just constantly doing harassment. Marines now pushing in, able to get some damage, but it looks like that Marine, no, the Marines are now just going to back off once more. Still a little bit more fancy flying, has to be very careful. Select pulls away, able to absorb and eat another scanner sweep. MVP not able to use those mules, not able to get nearly as many Marines, as the medevac's now going to the low ground. Now we'll see what's going to be happening here. The medevac, there is a Banshee over here. The medevac now coming in. How are the units going to perhaps counter themselves? The Marines are making their way off over here, but a drop now happening down over here as well. Double Banshees now coming in. There is this drop happening over here. It looks like they are ready. Siege tank is in position. Not quite sure what's going on. The Marines are all unloading, and it looks as though a little bit of splash damage will be had, as the Marines may be unable to shoot down any of those medevacs. This cloaked Banshee was able to spot that drop in time, but I really think that Select could have handled that just a little bit better. There are 2 siege tanks here. If he had perhaps positioned the siege tanks a little bit further in, he would have been able to destroy many more of those Marines, as the Banshee once again coming back in for a bit more harassment. One Banshee does get taken down, and taking a look at the total losses, 1450 versus 800. IM MVP apparently still training up a lot more SCVs, sitting at 46 compared to 45. Vikings now being trained as well in order to counteract those Banshees. Vikings with a very, very long range, one of the best anti-air units, or one of the best anti-air units in all of StarCraft 2, as we are now seeing medevacs being added as well. 3 medevacs in this group. 2 more now being trained by Select, as Select trying to utilize all of these Banshees, and now a quick cloak making sure that that one Banshee does not get destroyed. Scanner sweep does reveal a very large area right over here. It looks like these units will be hiding off, as a Viking is going to be able to get a free Banshee there. So a pretty sloppy play by Select, not cloaking at the last moment. This Banshee now apparently going to try to run away. Marines are going to make their way over. Is it going to be able to run away is the key question. The Marines may be able to get off some shots, but quickly going to get up onto the high ground, as the medevacs are not there to reveal onto the high ground at all. Taking a look at total army compositions, it looks like Select may perhaps be going for a drop in just a moment. And now another scanner sweep. Where did it come in? Sees that there is pretty much nothing happening over here on the ramp, but Select, with a very high ground position, will be able to shell a lot of damage from this very fortified location. A very even matchup, 127 or 128 versus 126. One Marine may get taken down, as we are now going into 1-1 upgrades for both sides. So both sides about even in upgrades, about even in army. It looks like MVP is starting to take a slight lead, as a command center is now being built as well. So that is going to be a second base for MVP. Meanwhile, Select is still running off of, or sorry, a third base, while Select is still running off of 1. Who's going to come out ahead here? Oh, Select losing his 1 Marine. As we can see, there are siege tanks in the middle of the map. Armory now being added by MVP, as Select already has his armory and now starting the all-important level 2 weapons upgrades. MVP able to shoot down this Banshee over here. Armies are now starting to do a little bit of a push forward. Siege tanks both shelling back and forth. There's currently 5 siege tanks in each location. Select realizing that he cannot hold that location there all too easily, and now going to move around just a little bit more, as scanner sweeps coming down, raining from the heavens, to figure out what exactly to do. Now we are, I guess, in this mid-game portion where both players are trying to set up their units in the proper position in order to deal with an oncoming battle. Both sides trying to get very good concaves, making sure that their units and both sides will be able to continue to deal a lot of damage. Select about to get to halfway mark on his level 2 weapons upgrade, just started his level 2 armor upgrades. But same thing from MVP as well. MVP also having a slight food advantage, a total of 11 food advantage right now, as Marines is getting sniped down over here as well. So this may become an East versus West base, a race, as MVP does have a radar tower now down over here, further defining the lines. Marines gonna go ahead and continue to battle. It looks like a new command center about to be completed by Select. MVP also gonna upgrade to an orbital command. A drop, and a rather large one, even coupled with siege tanks coming in. We can see Vikings are off over here. It looks like the sensor tower does see those 2 Vikings, and we'll see what's gonna be happening as Vikings are now making their way in over here. Are they gonna be able to focus down is a key question. And oh, that's a bad mistake by Select. Select actually going to lose this engagement. He wasn't very careful at all, as we are now going to see a drop coming in. Marines now coming back in over as well. Sheer numbers going to help out Select in that fight, losing the medevac as well, as Select now establishes most likely an orbital command in just a moment. Siege tanks are now sieging onto the low ground here. They will be able to start shelling up onto the high ground. Sensor tower has been destroyed, and now there is 1 siege tank back over here. How is this all going to work? Is Select going to lose some critical gas and also lose a reinforced supply depot, losing 16 food? That is not good news at all, as the scanner sweep does reveal 3 siege tanks down over here, and now MVP, realizing that he cannot overextend his welcome, decides to back off. All the siege tanks have been repicked back up. Army combinations slightly larger for MVP. We can see a planetary fortress is being added over here, so Select is going to have a fairly good defense, as Marines are now trying to push in. This is not going to be good. The Marines should back off, let the planetary fortress do its thing, dealing 40 damage per pop. A poor sensor tower going to get destroyed. Select should at least try to cancel that, otherwise it is going to be the full cost, or MVP should at least try to destroy it. Not quite sure what's going on, as I guess they just like to look at buildings. Meanwhile, back in the center of the map, now a raining of Marines coming in from the center. Very nice play by MVP, absorbing a lot of that damage. More Marines now trying to reinforce, but MVP having a lot more siege tanks in a much better position. And MVP just now pushing in with a lot more units, being able to split apart Select. Select now is going to be in a little bit of trouble as the siege tanks are now slowly reinforcing their locations once more. MVP knowing that if his opponent tries to engage him now, that he will be in trouble. The siege tanks now going to, with a range of, range of 7? Compared to a range of 6 siege tanks and Marines, both sides battling out still. The planetary fortress may just be within combat range, not 100% sure, as the siege tanks will be sieging here in order to try to fight back. Select really needs to get a lot more units. He needs to get a lot more Marines, figure out how to push out here. SCVs running straight into this group. This is not looking good at all. The medevac does get taken down. Marines are continuing this push as well, but this is not looking good at all. Select perhaps miscalculating there. He could have used 1 or 2 Banshees, picked off some lower hit point siege tanks, and then try to bring back in more units, or perhaps use a Viking in order to take down that initial medevac. So Select losing game 1 in the series. Stay tuned for game 2.